Hello, hello. What's up, Alien? Small crowd tonight. I am doing great. Thank you for asking. Definitely a little tired. I was sick this weekend for the first time in a very long time. So feeling a little tired, but glad to be coming back into trading. It's going to be definitely a special week, I guess is the best way to put it. Right? You guys, I don't know if you guys saw the announcement, but let me bring the news in on our chart right here. And we only have unemployment claims that is of any interest to us. You guys might know me. I don't like trading FOMC meeting minutes at all. So it's definitely going to be a special one here. Also, with a FOMC member speaking, not Powell, just Waller. But it's going to be a weird week. So I'm going to be interested in trading the other days whenever we have weird news events. And what do I mean by weird? Just out of the ordinary, right? Not standard. So, for example, you don't see a lot of weeks with these news events simply, right? So whenever we have weird weeks, just so I don't miss out on any opportunities, I like to just do, okay, I'm going to be half risk on Monday, half risk on Tuesday, half risk on Friday and on Wednesday. And I'm just going to be full risk trading the unemployment claims volatility. So pretty decent otherwise, but it's going to be a little bit of a weirder one. Now, of course, we're doing this week after the monthly open, which happened last Tuesday. Why? Because we had a bank holiday and we had a very short week. So I just wanted to do it on this week, starting on the first official full week of July. Honestly, I switch things up. Sometimes I do it on the week before, sometimes on the next week. And now, as you can see, we clearly already have reached previous month high. But as we discussed in our last week's weekly outlook, sorry about that, we were already bullish, had some objectives which were met. But now we get to visit the statistics of it, right? So if this is your first monthly outlook, pretty simple. I like to do a run through, very simple profiling of the month using data from Rise Statistics, which has been extremely consistent, extremely consistent. And we've been doing it since February, if I'm not mistaken, with 1 month where we had it half right and all the other months where we were completely correct. So pretty cool stuff there. Now for July, without any sorts of filtering, right, we have access to 20 months, which is looking over the last 19 years of data. We see that very clearly we have a high probability of reaching the previous high. What is that previous high, right? That's a previous monthly high. And the previous low is a lot lower probability. And that showcases it with 17 out of 20 months, right, which is 85% of months being bullish for July. So having a bearish July is very, very rare. We can actually head to the table here and perhaps just analyze the bearish months, right? We can see this, and the other one is actually here. So in 2024, we did have a bearish July, and the other ones are 2006 and 2007. So definitely very, very bullish month overall. If we do look at the rates, obviously, highest probability of reaching the previous month's high is week 1. But as we can see from our chart, that already occurred on both asset. Week 1 reached previous month's high. So that's not really data we can use for the following. What's very nice to see is that if we do reach the previous month low, right, which is already a very low probability overall, right? I never look to trade anything that's below 70%, by the way, guys. That's how I have my edge. That is definitely my edge. And actually, I'm just noticing that I am recording, but not sharing. So that would be extremely helpful if I can showcase to you guys what I'm talking about, right? So I do apologize for that. But here, now you can see it. We were looking at the dashboard for the previous month high for the probability of being bearish and bullish. And we have it right here for the next. And if we go to the extremes, to the rates tab, we can see that it's a very high probability of reaching it week 1 or 2, but that has already been met on our charts. What I was saying here is that if we are to reach the low, right, this rate time distribution chart is not about probabilities, right? It's about when we do reach it. So we know we have a 35% chance, but if we are to go target the low on our July, Well, we reach it during week 1 with an extremely high probability of being 85%, or one time that it has happened during week 2. So, what are we saying here? Well, we have two possibilities. If we are to fulfill this 35% probability, we have to reach this level right here, previous month low, during the next week. And that would already be a statistical outlier. What do I mean by that is that it has happened once in the last 20 years. So basically, I don't see that happening. So I don't see us trading all the way down here overall. We also do expect a bullish month, which means we need to close above this monthly opening price right here. But what does that mean about our, how can we say this? About our, not intraday, but intra-month is the word I was looking for, distribution, right? How are we looking for price to move? Well, by heading to the extreme stabs, this is where we can actually understand how the month will distribute. Right here, we see a very high probability of forming the low between week 1 and 2, cumulative probability of 75%. So that already, as I said, I'm looking for 70% plus frameworks. This tells me that the low should be formed early, and already in the month, we have formed something I could consider to be a low, right? Just an important swing low inside of a fair value gap. We'll look at it on our chart in a second, but definitely a trending bullish month, with the highest probability to form the high of the month during week 4 and week 5. So what does that mean? Well, I'm looking for price to open, to keep expanding until week 4 and 5, and then to close for the month. We can even go a little more precise. This is a quite recent addition to Rice Statistics. We can filter using the previous entry. What does that mean? Well, we can filter to see the month of July based on what June did. So if we head back to our chart here, just want to get used to switching quickly for you guys. If we head back to our chart and we go in replay mode into the past month, just so we can see easily. So the past month took out previous month's high, right? First of all, it closed bullish. So the past month was bullish and we rated previous month high. So if we go back to Rice Statistics now and we input these variables into it. So previous direction was bullish, first of all. So already there we're down to 9 months. And we can also do previous rate status, had high rate, right? So right here, we're at 7 months and we have overwhelming statistical probabilities. First of all, already the probabilities of a low rate are down to 14%, and it has always happened during the first week. So unless we have an outlier, I don't see us returning to previous month low at all. Now, of course, 100% probability of reaching the high rate, which means it happened every single time we had a previous month that was bullish. And as we can see, higher probability of being during week 1. This has already happened, so it doesn't give us any useful probabilities. But where we can go is during the extremes. So whenever we had a bullish June, right, the previous entry, which is in this case the previous month, whenever we had June that was bullish and had a high rate, we formed the high during week 2 at 30% occurrence, 14% occurrence at week 3, and 42% at week 4. So by week 4, we'll have a cumulative probability of 85%. So once again, this just confirms the probability that I am looking for a continuation higher until the end of the month. But here's where it gets interesting. We have a higher probability of forming the low during week 2 than week 1. So what does this mean for my charts, right? For my expectations of price delivery during the month. If we get out of replay mode, it means that this low is not protected by 42%. That's it. So we had a 42% chance of forming in during week 2. So this week, for example, right? And I don't know why price is already showcasing on the daily chart, but it has not opened yet. But we could see a retracement early on in the week. Now, once again, with the 42% probability, I guess, it is not high probability for us to return down here. But there is a chance that we could. So if I see price expand early on in the week, then I'll definitely be looking for that. Overall, we are expecting a very bullish month, right? With an open into a low, expansion into a high until week 4, and then a small retracement to a close, right? So pretty standard trending month that we are looking for on this July, this summer. But we have the probability that this low gets formed a little lower, breaking this low. Now, if we do form a swing point, right, and we just keep expanding higher, then this will now be a protected low. And for the entirety of the month, I will not be looking for us to return here. Even if we have taken all-time highs, it does not matter. That's why I love statistics so much. It tells me how I should interact with price, basically, and I don't have to look at possible reversals because I have the statistical data that tells me that no matter where we are, we have 75% chance of closing the month bullish and forming the high of the low of the month before week 2 of 85%. Right? That's what I mean by simple data profiling. We don't have to go extremely far and extremely deep into the data. I'm using one analysis. I'm looking at the monthly ranges, and I'm applying some little more intense filtering here. Another thing I like to do is go into seasonality. And now we'll look at NASDAQ, and I like to have NASDAQ and ES side to side. So as we can see right here, we'll see both seasonality charts. Let me zoom in a little here. And what does that tell me? Well, for June, as we can see, it has not updated yet. It will be updated within the next hour. If you guys are wondering, we do our Rice Statistics update on Sundays. But June is a pretty standard seasonality of a classic bullish month. As you can see, the curves are extremely simple to follow. And now they're going to go all the way. But we tend to open, let's just say we use the all-time seasonality, right? Which in this case, we'll use the last 25 years, if I'm correct. We see 6.85% up on the year, and we close at 9.58. So we see an average range of 3% here and almost 2% on ES. So pretty standard stuff there. We expect a classic bullish month. But to be honest, when the statistical data is so overwhelming, you don't think. You just act on that specific thing. So the trend is your friend, and I'll be looking to trade those moves specifically. Now, just to get back over this specific week, in case I wasn't clear enough, I am open to the opportunity of a retracement lower breaking this low. I understand there is a 40% chance, so it could happen. But overall, I'll be looking for a long. If we close aggressively past this high, which in this case is previous week's high, right? If I just bring previous week's high right here, you'll see it. So, and previous month low updated right here because it was still looking at May. Sometimes some weird bugs happen when we have a bank holiday. No need to worry about that. But possibility of previous week low. We can even go deeper. You know, we're looking at statistics, so why not look at statistics correctly and actually go to the ranges analysis? Let's look at the weekly time period. We're going to look at week 2 of the month, and we are going to look only for the month of July, actually. So I'm interested in July week 2. I also like to use news a lot, but now we have like some weird news where during the news, we don't have important news. So whenever I'm looking at weekly ranges, I'm interested in filtering based on news event, specifically for NFP, right? So this is the big one that is important to me. Otherwise, I don't really care. But what do we see here? Higher probability of reaching previous high rate than previous low rate. So already there, this is a framework that I'll be interested in, and overwhelming probability to be on Monday rather than any other day. And if we are to see a move lower to previous week low, which was our level we were looking at, it should happen during Monday or Tuesday. And yes, if you guys are wondering, I do look at it every day, but instead of having these more complex dashboards, right, which these are more for backtesting, right, and long-term analysis, every single day I like to open my dashboard. And now, as you can see, we're looking at NASDAQ, which is the default. I'm looking at the current, at the New York session. I like to use aggressive filtering. That is the default that is set there. But now I can see all the data I need. I have all my distribution, manipulation, retracement, and total range levels. And I can look at the week, I can look at the day, or I can look at the session. And whenever I have a specific news for a day, so for example, we're going to see unemployment claims on Thursday, then I'll look at it like that. And if you don't have data, just use lighter filtering. It's because you probably don't have, actually, currently being filtered for Friday. So, of course, it does not have a lot of Friday's unemployment claims. But if you open it on Thursday, it's going to show up as Thursday, and you'll be able to mess around with it. But as you can see, all the data is present here also with the opening gaps and probabilities for high time and low time and direction. So definitely going to be basically looking at this dashboard every single day. That's just what I like doing myself. And I do recommend it. If you have rice statistics, it is very, very useful to be looking at this. So a lot of back and forth. In this case, all that to say, we're looking for a classic month. And after this week, it's going to be very straightforward. So the only probability is that this week we can reach our previous week low with now a 45% chance instead of 40%. We have a lot of data aligning that this is a possibility, so I will be open to it trading. But if we take out previous week high and expand aggressively through it, right? So for example, I see a candle that closes like this. Let's just make it a color we can see. See a candle that closes anywhere near this, right? Just through previous week high. Then I'm going to be solely focused on taking longs. Do we have any questions? Any questions at all? Whether it is about the data, the statistics we share, or purely about this week price, I am open for questions. So, I'm not seeing anything. All right. So I'm guessing it was pretty clear. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. We're going to call it a day here. All good, Alien? Awesome. It's awesome to hear. We're going to call it a day. Good luck trading this week, guys. Awesome stuff. Lovely. Thank you for the kind words. Price action reviews will be a little different this week. To be honest with you guys, there is only going to be one on Thursday guaranteed. Truth is, if I see some nice price action or some particularly ugly price action, we're going to be having a price action review. So if you guys want to jump in and tell me, hey, Ollie, I had a hard time today, I would really appreciate if you could do a review tonight, and you tag me in chat, then I'm going to do a review on that night. But if it's pretty straightforward the whole week, I'm just going to talk in chat, and we're going to have one price action review on Thursday. On that note, you guys have a great night. Good luck trading tomorrow, and we'll talk more soon. Bye, guys.